Hi guys, and welcome to another video. This one is more DIY related and could save you thousands if you're willing to give it a go yourself. I'd like to start off by saying that I know in my first video I said I wouldn't be doing how-to videos for now. However, during the course of laying these patios, I've had numerous people, from neighbours to complete strangers walking past, comment on how impressed they were that I was able to do all of this myself. Now, the fact of the matter is that I didn't do all of this by myself. When the rules changed and we were allowed to see limited people in our garden, I jumped at the opportunity to ask my parents for a bit of backup. However, it made me realise how many people underestimate their own ability to carry out slightly larger DIY jobs, and I would wager that it is mainly due to a lack of knowledge. But we live in an age where you can learn pretty much anything you can think of, thanks to the internet. What I'm trying to say is that I didn't know how to do a lot of these things before I did some research. And at that point, all you need is a bit of confidence, and you'll be amazed at what you can actually accomplish. As you can see, I had an apprentice with me on this job. Their output was minimal, so I'm not sure how long she'll last. To kick things off, I marked out the radius of the patio and then started the dig. I'm not going to give you exact figures and depths because these can vary depending on how thick your slabs are and what materials you're using. However, our slabs varied between 20 to 30 mil thick. We then accounted for a layer of mortar, a layer of compressed sand, and then at the very bottom a layer of hardcore.
Everybody join in!
As we were digging the area out, we discovered what must be the remains of the original washing line, and annoyingly it stuck up just too much and would have interfered with the slabs. There was only one thing to do. Once that was out of the way, the concrete block that it was anchored with came in very handy for the next job, which, and I'm not exaggerating here, could be used as a form of punishment. It was time to break up our own hardcore. Now, this wasn't a necessity, as we could have just bought a big bag of hardcore and been done with it. However, our aim was to try and get the grey patio as cheap as possible. So I just had to tell myself, well, and my dad, sorry dad, that when you've got loads of time but not much money to work with, you just have to do what needs to be done. That being said, this part of the project easily took the longest to complete, and by quite a large margin. Especially when you consider that we were doing two patios, and the front patio worked out to be almost double the square meterage of this one. Right, I am going to ask this every video, as it has been proven to help by many other channels, so please, if you've made it this far, just click the like button. It's the easiest thing you can do for me in return for the videos. And if you would like to see more content, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button as well. Thanks a lot. We then compacted and levelled the sand, making sure there was a gradient sloping away from the decking. You don't really need to be super precise at this stage, as any inconsistencies could be evened out with a mortar. And then it was time to lay the first slab. Stupidly, we mixed all the mortar by hand, as I wasn't wanting to spend unnecessary money on a mixer. In hindsight, we should have just paid the measly amount of 20 quid and saved time as well as our backs. It goes without saying that we learnt from our mistake and got a mixer when we moved to the front garden.
Because not, that's perfect that way. That's good. Okay, so that's...
Once the slabs were in place and I'd given the mortar a couple of days to dry, it was time to cut the radius. I started by marking a pen line using a spare decking board in the same way that you would use a string and pivot point. Using a decking board just meant that I didn't have to worry about the string stretching. And then it was time to get busy with the angle grinder. I wasn't 100% sure what disc I needed, but after doing some research I got this diamond cutting disc and it worked perfectly. I also had a look at how best to cut a radius on slate slabs, and after a bit of searching I discovered that a squirt of water every so often helped keep everything from overheating. And I went with the method of cutting through completely at each end of the particular slab I was working on, and then making relief cuts along the offcut. This was to prevent the weight of the offcut snapping the tile and messing up the edge, rather than leaving a clean cut finish. I'm not going to lie, I was chuffed with the end result. It worked better than I imagined and went a lot smoother as well. At this point, the apprentice decided she wanted to put in another shift, so she gave me a hand filling in all the gaps. I used a much drier mortar mix for this, as otherwise it would stick to the top of the slates and spoil them. Although I didn't account for the slabs heating up so much in the sun, and the mix ended up being much drier than I had originally intended. So by now I'd repeated the entire process in the front garden as well, and it was now time to fill in all the gaps between the slabs out there. My dad actually gave me a great tip on how to mix a small amount of mortar mix quickly. You just become a human cement mixer. Easy. Once I had everything filled in, it was just time for the finishing touches. The gap between the slabs and the raised bed was left intentionally as a soakaway, which has actually worked really well since finishing it. Some slate chippings really helped tidy up the edges. Much better. So, if there's ever a project that you think is way out of your reach, think again. It might just be a case of doing enough research and pushing yourself a little bit. It could end up saving you thousands. DIY is like anything in life. Practice makes perfect.
You helping Daddy?